Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Commerce64. How you guys are doing today? And I'm back with another video. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I think that we'll probably never see, anime caterers appear as guest caterers in other games like regular normal like video game franchise. Like why we'll never see caterers like Goku appear like in Smash Brothers, or we'll never see Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach appear in Soul Calibur. You know, something like that. Why I think we'll never see those type anime caterers in general, like appear as guest caterers, like in fighting games or any other franchise. At least, probably not anymore. We probably still can, but probably not anytime soon. I mean, rarely. It seems like something like that could happen, but it seems like it's a rare case nowadays. Now, here's the thing. One of the reasons why I don't think we'll ever see, those type of characters appear in crossover in these as guest characters. Excuse me, sorry. Why I don't think we'll see get them appear as guest characters in other games is mainly because of basically licensing issues. You know, because from what I hear is that anime, manga, mostly particularly anime franchises, manga, like in order to put them in a game, they had to go through some type of licensing, and there does come a point where that licensing does expire. Like for example, like Jump Force. A lot of people think that one of the reasons why Jump Force ended was because it was a terrible game and such. And people say, "Oh, Jump Force was a trash game. It did poorly. It got bad reviews." And Bandai decided to just to shut the game down, decided not to continue going on with the game. But the truth is that that's actually not the case. Jump Force actually sold extremely well. I mean, despite its lackluster and mixed reviews, it actually did pretty well. And from what I hear, I think it outsold its predecessor, J Stars with the Versus. From what I heard, now the reason why Jump Force ended was mainly because of licensing issues. Because since that Jump Force has different Shonen Jump series, they had to license each of the Shonen Jump series: Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Yu-Gi-Oh, Rurouni Kenshin, Saint Seiya, My Hero Academia, Black Clover. They need to license all those franchises to add them in the game, basically. And apparently, what happened was one of the licensing for one of the series ended. Now, there have been rumors circulating that it was actually Dragon Quest: The Adventures of Dai. That Dragon Quest: The Adventures of Dai was the reason why was the series that they lost license to, and they had to pull the plug on Jump Force. And I think I heard something saying that Square Enix refused to renegotiate the deal. That's from what I heard from. I mean, there are a lot of rumors and speculating which series was the reason why Jump Force ended. Well, Dragon Quest was possibly probably one of the three series that we can assume were probably one of the reasons that Yu-Gi-Oh and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and maybe some others, maybe Saint Seiya too as well. But because they lost license to Dragon Quest Adventures Die, they can't continue with Jump Force. They don't need to take Dragon Quest Adventures Die out or anything. They just can't continue the game because they don't have the license for that franchise. Now there were rumors that a DLC for a third season DLC for Jump Force was planned, and I think there was proof of it, but apparently it didn't materialize because they lost licensing. They couldn't go through with it. It is a bummer. So it's kind of something like that, And I think Jay Stars with the Versus went through a similar thing because the game got delisted from all digital stores, like how Jump Force did. And it was mainly because of licensing issues. So I think they end up losing the license to either Jay Stars with the Versus, or maybe they lost license to one of the Jump series that's inside Jay Stars with the Versus. We personally don't know, honestly. So yeah, it seems like anime anime characters. It seems like and with anime in general, it's kind of a whole different thing with them, like seeing them appear as guest characters in like in fighting games or anything, or even seeing them appear as guest characters in other games, like maybe in a racing game. Like for so, it doesn't seem like we'll probably ever see anime characters appear as guest characters in their games. Like, seeing Goku appear as a guest character in either Smash Brothers or King of Fighters or Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. It probably will be a bit odd to see Goku appear as a guest character in those games. But I guess either way, it would probably, if it were to happen, it'd probably make those games even more popular. But one of the reasons why it'll probably never happen is because of licensing issues. Because so, like, if they were to add, like, let's say if Sakura were to add Goku in Super Smash Brothers, which a lot of people have been wanting to see Goku in Smash Brothers, but it's probably never going to happen. So the thing is, Master Sakurai, he and Nintendo will basically have to get the licensing from, you know, the Dragon Ball franchise, licensing for Dragon Ball from either from Shonen Jump, but also Shueisha, and I think in any cases sometimes the anime does get involved as well. So if the anime does get bring into consideration, then the company that makes the Dragon Ball anime, Toy Animation, they will have to get involved too as well, and they will have to get licensing. Nintendo will have to get licensing from them as well. This is just what I think. That's just what I think. Like, and so and let's say they do get a negotiate a deal to get Goku in Smash Brothers, and Goku does end up getting Smash Brothers like as DLC. But then eventually the licensing will have to will eventually be delisted, unfortunately, and Goku, there'll be no, you're gonna have to buy him eventually, if you want to play as him in Smash Ultimate, because the licensing deal for him will basically end soon, or unless Nintendo were to renegotiate the deal with Shueisha and Shonen Jump. I think. And this could be the case with almost any anime character. Like, let's say if they want to add Luffy from One Piece in Smash Bros. Or Naruto Uzumaki from Naruto, or Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach, or Deku Izumidori, from My Hero Academia. They have to negotiate deals with Shonen Jump, Shueisha, and stuff like that to get those characters in. And eventually, those characters, the licensing for those characters will eventually expire. That's why. That's really what I think. And also, like so this can be this is the case with almost any non-anime fighting game. Or like say like what if we want to see Ichigo Kurosaki appear as a guest character in Soul Calibur? That'd be sick to happen. That really would be sick to happen. That'd be the most amazing thing ever. And it probably could happen, but most likely it probably won't. Or if they could still decide to do it, but there could be a possibility that they won't do it because mainly because Ichigo, Ichigo if he will, because Ichigo, if they do get him as a guest character in Soul Calibur, eventually the DLC for him will eventually be delisted, and there'll be no way you can buy him again. Now, there are now there are two different alternatives that could happen. Like, what if Ichigo was in the next Soul Calibur game, Soul Calibur 7, which we know is obviously probably going to happen somewhere in the future. What if Ichigo Kurosaki appears as a guest character in Soul Calibur 7, but he's already in the base roster? He's not unlocked, he's not DLC, he's already in the base roster already. He's already in the base roster. And so basically, that's kind of, but that'd be cool and all. And you have to pay for him or anything. But here's the thing: there could be a possibility, like if no, if Ichigo was in Soul Calibur 7, unfortunately, Soul Calibur 7, will probably be eventually be delisted from digital stores, mainly because of Ichigo. You know, it's because Bando Namkai, no Namco Bandai, if they do add Ichigo in Soul Calibur 7, they will have to get permission from Shonen Jump and Shueisha and strike a deal with them and license Ichigo to put him in the game. And basically, what could happen is, sometimes there could be licensing issues between companies, and sometimes certain deals don't go through. Like, for example, like Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy, he was originally supposed to be the console exclusive guest character for Soul Calibur 2 on the PlayStation 2. But apparently, from what we heard, that apparently last minute the deal didn't go through, and apparently there was some. We don't know what really happened, but they say it was some licensing issues, some licensing disagreements. So it was probably a licensing issue that they couldn't probably reach like some kind of agreement or something, and they just pulled the plug on adding Cloud in Soul Calibur 2 for the PlayStation 2 version. And they decided to add in Heihachi, who was said to be a last minute inclusion, last minute decision. So yeah, so sometimes companies they can have issues and licensing issues, and and they can start to just decide to just part ways. Like you remember the whole thing, the Spider-Man debacle with Disney and Sony, where they were having share ownership of Spider-Man to put Spider-Man in the MCU, but then they were starting having issues with Disney wanted more money and Sony kind of thought that was unfair and such, and they almost decided to pull Spider-Man on the MCU, but then they end up renegotiating the deal and they were able to make Spider-Man No Way Home. And now it looks like they're making another deal again because next year with Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out. So, you know, so yeah, I'll be honest, guys, I don't know too much how licensing works, but from what I've seen from certain videos and other stuff, I seen to someone kind of get the gist of it in a way. Now, I'm not saying that Ichigo Kurosaki, he will never be in Soul Calibur 7. Well, he probably can, but it just doesn't seem like that, sometimes that does seem like something that Bandai Namco will want to risk doing, like, because maybe they know that, licensing for these characters, they eventually are up eventually. So, and like if Ichigo Kurosaki, if he was in Soul Calibur 7, Soul Calibur 7 will unfortunately be delisted from all digital stores because the licensing for Ichigo would eventually expire. But if Ichigo was DLC, you know, then Soul Calibur 7 will still you can still purchase Soul Calibur 7 digitally. It's just the DLC for Ichigo will be this delisted, and that's all. In a way, now this is probably also a similar reason why Soul Calibur 4 has probably never saw a re-release, mainly because of the Star Wars franchise. Because since that Soul Calibur 4 had the Star Wars characters as guest characters, and unfortunately, it got delisted from all digital stores from PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, mainly because of the Star Wars franchise, because the licensing for the Star Wars franchise pretty much was up and over already. So we could probably still see Soul Calibur 4 get a re-release, but Namco Bandai will have to negotiate a new deal with the company that owns Star Wars, mainly Disney, to see if they can release Soul Calibur for like on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and slash S and S. I mean that probably a giant loophole. You know that might be a tiny bit difficult for them to do because Disney doesn't seem to like to play ball sometimes. But anything could happen. I mean, Capcom was able to, negotiate a deal with Marvel to re-release Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So that is a possibility because Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the vanilla and Ultimate, both were delisted because Capcom lost the Marvel license. But they later on they managed to renegotiate a deal to re-release Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom, release Ultimate on PS4 and Xbox One, like I said earlier. So it does seem like that licensing doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, but it's just like in case for anime, it seems maybe kind of different and I think a bit hard. And like also, do you guys remember that Dead or Alive 5? I think Dead or Alive 5 had like that Attack on Titan collab where the characters will have Attack on Titan outfits on, and apparently there was an Attack on Titan stage where it had like one of the giants in the background, and watch the characters fight, and apparently all that got delisted because the licensing for Attack on Titan was up. So basically, it looks like that Koei Tecmo, who owns They're Alive, basically had to do a licensing with the company that owns Attack on Titan, Kodansha, to see if they can do that collab. And once the licensing was up, that DLC got delisted, and there's pretty much no way you can buy it anymore. So like if anime characters were to appear as a guest characters in fighting games like Ippo Makunuchi from Hajime no Ippo, what if he appeared as a guest character in Dead or Alive or Tekken, you know, or Tanjiro from Demon Slayer appears as a guest character in Soul Calibur or Samurai Shodown, or what if Naruto appears as a guest character in King of Fighters, you know, those would be all fun to see, but chances are they don't seem to ever happen. They probably could, but it just doesn't seem likely. But there is always a possibility. I mean, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds pretty much had some Nickelodeon characters appear as guest characters. Just so now, sure, they do have a couple of video game characters like Mega Man, Minecraft, and Pac Man. But I think video game licensing is somewhat different compared to anime licensing or even cartoon licensing or licensing from any other media. You know, but that's just from the gist that I get of it. So like Ichigo Kurosaki, Kenshin Homura from Rurouni Kenshin, Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, Asa from Black Clover, Yo from Shaman King. Would it be cool to see them appear as guest characters in Soul Calibur or Samurai Shodown or any other game? Sure, but it does seem very unlikely at this point. Or Goku appearing, or Luffy, or Naruto, or Jotaro Kujo, or Toriko appearing as guest characters in Tekken. It really doesn't seem likely. And also, like I remember I made like a Mortal Kombat One wish list, and I had Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as as a guest character. But now to think about it, he probably won't happen. He probably might not get in. But I think there is one loophole. There is one possibility that could give Dio a chance, but slightly. But I won't say slightly. Is mainly because JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is owned by Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers, I think someone owns Mortal Kombat, so they could maybe negotiate some kind of deal or anything, but I don't know. But since that Mortal Kombat 1 is basically and has already ended at this point, I think that seems likely. And there are other anime characters I think that would be cool to see as guest characters in Mortal Kombat. Freezer, Madara Uchiha, and but those chances don't seem to be very likely. Or also the guy from Demon Slayer, the guy with the pink hair and who fights with his face, with his fists, his favorite. That guy, I forgot his name, but I figured he'd be a good and distant guest guy as Mortal Kombat as well, but doesn't seem likely. So yeah, I do think it'd be fun to see Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure appear as a guest character in Tekken. Him going up against Heihachi or any of the other characters. Imagine him using Auto on Kazuya or Jin or Nina Williams or anyone. Or Brian Ferry. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's always fun to imagine the possibilities, but sometimes some things can happen, but some things can't. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I don't think we'll probably see anime characters appear as guest characters in other games, like video game related games, like mainly nothing that's not anime related. Now, could we see like anime characters appear as guest characters in other anime fighting games, like Luffy appears as a guest character in the Dragon Ball game? Sure, but that won't require licensing in a way. And I think anime licensing is very different compared to other types of licensing. That's just what I think. So yeah, I think I said over almost everything I can think of. So, but you let me know what you think. Do you agree with me with some of the things I said about anime licensing? Why we'll never see some of these anime characters as guest characters in other games? You let me know. Hey guys, I apologize. So apparently, the video thing, the camera thing, kind of cut out before I wrapped up. Before I say, before I was supposed to finish up talking. So, yeah, you guys can let me know what you guys think, and I'll have more videos coming up in the future. See you guys later. This is Comrade64. Sign out. Long live anime. Yeah, phone on busy right now. Just when these things happen. Whatever. Long live anime.